most people accept that we should be positive about, rather than constantly creating, in some cases, I think the Bishop has done, very exaggerated concerns about a phenomenon, diversity, which is on the whole brought great benefits to Britain.
Nick Clegg, I think we better let you go. I know that you're at an airport this morning and it's pretty busy in the background, but thank you very much for joining us. Nick Clegg, leader of the Liberal Democrats. We also have with us Leo McKinstry, a columnist with The Express. Good morning.
Good morning.
0500 909 693 if you want to join in as well. Do you think that the Bishop's comments in any way reflect concerns amongst the people in Britain?
Well, I thought what we've just heard from the Liberal Democrat leader, Nick Clegg, is a classic example of what's gone wrong in Britain. Totally rambling and contradictory. The fundamental contradiction that on one hand he says we have to celebrate diversity, multiculturalism is wonderful, but multiculturalism actually encourages social divisions by promoting the belief that people should cling to their own identity, their own language, their own customs, and this has been exploited, as the Bishop says, by radical Islam to impose this ideology on parts of Britain.
So you don't think it's possible to have different thriving communities living side by side,
well,
yet
you know, that's just
integrating and relating with one another?
This is the second point I was coming on to. We always thrive in communities, rich diversity, vibrant. Yes, but at the same time, the Metropolitan Police tells us there's 2,000 potential radical Islamic terrorists in our midst and 13,000 supporters of Al-Qaeda in our midst. 52 people died in London because of radical Islam on the tubes. In 2005, over 700 injured, and to pretend in this sort of clappy, happy Nick Clegg way that it's outrageous that it's all wonderful in the garden, and it's outrageous of the Bishop of Rochester to point out anything that's going wrong with our
but radical Islam is supported by a tiny minority of the Muslim community.
Is it? How do you know that?
Well, something like 24% of the Muslim population. The Muslim population is 2% of this country, 24% of the Muslim...
2 million Muslims in Britain.
24% of the Muslim population, we hear from certain surveys, support the introduction of Sharia law.
So
now, that's not even going so far as to say radical...
500,000 people, more than the city Nick Clegg's Sheffield, or more than Leeds, who support Sharia law, and all that entails. I find it absolutely bizarre that someone who calls themselves a liberal should be accepting such a dogmatic, illiberal creed as radical Islam and Sharia law, which utterly suppresses women's rights, the rights of gays, and is a reactionary, theocratic, totalitarian creed, as we've seen throughout the Islamic world. Do we really want that in a democratic, open society? There's a tremendous contradiction in the whole Nick Clegg politically correct.
Well, I don't think Nick Clegg was saying that he supported in any way the introduction of Sharia law in any way at all. But
if you really believe in multiculturalism, you have to accept Sharia law because you believe that groups that feel strongly about certain aspects of their identity should be allowed to have it in their own societies and their own communities. So how can you be against Sharia law if you're really in favour of multiculturalism?
Yeah. This from Saeed in Glasgow. It's un-Islamic to implement Sharia law on a majority non-Muslim population.
But what do you do when as is happening, and I think the Bishop's absolutely right. I've been to Bradford, I've spent a lot of time in Birmingham and in East London, and if you have certain neighbourhoods where there's an overwhelming majority of Muslims and particularly a lot of people support Sharia law, you end up getting it on an informal basis. I mean, in parts of Bradford there is undoubtedly Sharia, a form of Sharia law operating with Sharia courts.
Leo McKinstry, thank you very much for your time this morning.